rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to American Perspective. My goodness. What a bloody weekend. And I'm not talking bloody as in the English version of bloody, although that certainly would be apropos, but holy crap, folks. Holy crap. So, obviously, there's a lot of events that have happened, but it made me start to think. Because we have to come to a certain point where we realize, and I even posted this on the social medias, we have to come to a certain point where we finally realize that there are people out there who don't want the same things we do, who don't want to live like we do, who don't want to worship like we do, and who realistically want to go and basically destroy us. I think it's time for the Western culture to come to grips with the idea that not everybody in this world wants the same things that we do. That wants to live in a country, in a culture where they can be free. They don't think the way we do. They're not tied to things the way we are. And I seriously think that it's about the time that we just basically say, you know what? And this is a bad analogy, I think, but coming in and just, hey, you can lead a horse to freaking water, but you can't make him drink it. And that's what's happening in the world today. It's not just here in America. It's across the pond in England and in Europe. It is across the Grand Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, southbound, over in Australia. And I think it's time for us in the Western world to realize that, hey, we can't be the saviors of the world. We can't be the ones that bring everybody to Western culture. This is utterly ridiculous. Anyway, I'll get on to that here in just a minute. Let's go ahead and get things kicked off. Tonight is My News. My News is up for the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with My News as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, My News, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting or performing the pledge in your style. Then take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and attach it to an email address, or attach it to an email and send it off to this address. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation. If you do it on your phone, you can use the share option and send it off to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. I've got 20. I'm looking for 21. So somebody who hasn't done it, please go ahead and get it in if you would. I would appreciate it. All right. Tonight's headline sponsor, I'm wearing one of their fantastic shirts. is theflagshirt.com. Of course, I like these shirts. I wear the men's cotton polos, although I've been considering expanding my wardrobe to a little bit beyond that. I've got my eye on a couple of other ones that I think would be kind of cool. So anyway, head on over to theflagshirt.com and check out what they've got going on. They're wishing everybody a happy holidays. For me, it's Merry Christmas. I'm sorry. I just can't get away from it. It's Merry Christmas. It's not a happy holidays. Anyway, excuse me. So head on over to theflagshirt.com. Check out all of their styles, whether it's men's, women's, kids, made in the USA. They are setting up for the American 250 anniversary next year. And accessories, all, of course, in the grand red, white, and blue. And if you order $75 or more of their product, they will provide you with free shipping. But I know not everybody wants to order $75 or more of their product. Maybe they only want one shirt. Maybe you only want a few accessories, and you just can't get to that $75 point. Well, that's okay, because I'm going to give you a hand. If you head on over to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, that's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, you will be presented immediately with a coupon code. Take that coupon code, copy, and paste it into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com, and you'll receive $5 off your order. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.com, .online, my bad, .online, and you will be presented with a coupon code that you can copy and paste into the promo code box at theflagshirt.com at checkout and get $5 off your order. Head on over to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. All right, folks. Well, let's kick the first thing off, of course, part of the tragedy that happened this weekend. And I'll be honest with you, I did not agree with this man's politics. I personally think he went off his rocker with Trump's first administration. But regardless of whether I disagree with your politics or whether I disagree with anything or whether I think you're a complete meathead, that's a little indication as to who I'm about ready to talk about. Rob Reiner. Rob Reiner did not deserve to die at the hands of, apparently, the person who's been arrested in connection with the murder is his own son. So Rob Reiner and his wife were apparently found stabbed to death in their Los Angeles home yesterday evening. Authorities were initially called to the Brentwood residence for a medical emergency in the mid-afternoon, but the first responders discovered the couple dead at the scene with multiple stab wounds, prompting the LAPD homicide investigation and closure of the surrounding street. Early reports identified the victims only by age and address, but later confirmation matched the bodies to Reiner, who is 78, and his 68-year-old wife, whose home has long been known as their primary residence. Reportedly, their 32-year-old son, Nick, has now been charged with their murder. Apparently, according to reports in the New York Post in particular, Nick has been a long-time drug addict with multiple stints in rehab, and he currently remains in custody on the $4 million bail. Reports say that his struggles began early with his first trip to rehab just at 15 years old, and then followed by roughly 17 separate stints in treatment over the years. NBC News, of course, put out a thing on his past, his troubled past. And by the way, apparently the experiences with Nick are what inspired the 2016 movie directed by Rob Reiner, co-written by Nick Reiner, and featured actor Cary Elwes, I can't pronounce his last name, Elwes, the guy that played Robin Hood in Robin Hood Men in Tights. Anyway, the movie was called Being Charlie. So, yeah, anyway. Oh, Carrie also was in The Princess Bride. I don't know why I didn't just say that one. That one's a little bit more well-known of a movie than the Men in Tights. But anyway. So, yeah. Unfortunately, there's nothing else that I can really say about this. It's pretty sad. And like I said, regardless of what I felt or how I treated him on X, because, I called him a complete and utter stupid moron. That's true. He is, or he was. But that being said, he did not deserve to be killed by his son, assuming, and again, that's allegedly what happened. We don't have all of the details, but anyway, so prayers, I guess, for him, for all of that. Now let's move to the more televised event that occurred on Sunday. At least I think it was Sunday night. Monday morning they announced this, but the death toll happened Sunday. A terror attack at Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia, has climbed to 14. I've heard 16, but 14 seems to be the one that everybody is kind of in there on this. Now, what's sad about this, and there's 42 people who are apparently in the hospital. Victims' age ranges are from as young as 10 up to 87. But here's where things get sort of expected, I guess. So a father and son duo are claimed to have carried out the attack. The father, age 50, was killed. The 24-year-old son was wounded and is currently in the hospital. They had rifles, bolt-action rifles is all I can really say. Plus, apparently, there reportedly were IEDs in their vehicles. IEDs, for those that are the uninformed, are improvised explosive devices. Now, the thing about this is, and these are some of the details that I really got to tell you. First of all, it was a Hanukkah celebration. And the men who performed this attack were reportedly Muslims. So let's be honest here. There's no real reason to go any farther to understand what the ulterior motive of this was. Okay. So, yeah. Anyway, all of the firearms, regardless of what anybody will tell you, which, people, these gun nuts, and I'm sorry, I got to go off on this. Okay, this is a horrific attack. This is a horrific terror attack. Many people are being affected by this. But it happened in Australia, which is one of the leftist gun nut countries that they keep saying, hey, we need to do this gun buyback like Australia did back in 1996. And I'm sorry, but no. The weapons were reportedly all properly licensed to the father. That every one of the weapons found and used in the attack, ballistics has tied them to the attack. These were legally obtained weapons under current gun law in Australia. They weren't anything special. One was a shotgun. One was a bolt-action rifle. Okay. There is literally nothing, no law, no nothing would ever stop this. Okay. That's just it. There is no law. There is nothing that you can do. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to ban hammers? You're going to ban You're going to ban knives. You're going to ban anything that can be used as a weapon. I mean, hell, you can use a rock. Cain killed Abel with a rock. It's not the weapon of choice or the tool that is being used. And yet all of these leftists, even before, because it's the same thing, Brown University had a weapon that was used, and I'll get to Brown in just a few minutes. But Brown University had a shooting this weekend as well. Now, the motive of that one isn't very clear yet, although there are some suppositions that are out there. But the fact of the matter is, folks, we're not going to be able to legislate ourselves into safety. You just can't. There's two main perpetrators of these events. And until you do something about the perpetrators, there is nothing you can do about the tools. The perpetrators are A, criminals, or B, the mentally ill. And by mentally ill, yes, I am including those who have an ideological bent to go around and kill people. By that, I'm talking about the Muslim extremists. Now, the one bright spot about what happened at Bondi Beach was apparently, I haven't had this 100% confirmed yet, but apparently there was a Muslim man, 43-year-old, I think he was like a fruit stand worker or fruit something worker or owner. And he was able to grab one of the guns away from one of the shooters. And unfortunately, he only turned the gun on the attacker, but he appears to allow the attacker to walk away. And I'm just going to tell you right now that I don't know why. I do not know why he would have stopped. I mean, the only way to destroy that kind of evil or to eliminate, mitigate that kind of evil is to literally eliminate it. Now, I don't know about the laws in Australia. I know that using a person's weapon on them depends here in the States, will depend on which state you're in. Because technically, by removing the firearm, he supposedly neutralized the threat. Although, and I'm not exactly sure because later I've seen footage of the hero taking down the individual, one of the two individuals. But then I also saw footage, and I don't know what order these two are in, but I also saw footage of two individuals on a pedestrian bridge that were both firing, getting shot by the police. Now, my guess is that the one man, the hero, let's call him, and I'm not going to try and pronounce his name because I'm not 100% certain, if that is even him. I've heard him be identified with two different names, so I'm not exactly sure which one to use. But my understanding is that when he wrested the gun away from the attacker and allowed him to walk away, that allowed him to go back to the pedestrian bridge and pick up another one of the 6 weapons. So, again, and given the fact that that is likely the order that things went on, as much as I appreciate the man being brave as he was, he did not finish to eliminate the threat. He didn't hit him. He didn't bring him down. All he did was hold the weapon on him and allow him to walk away. So, as much as I applaud his efforts and applaud what he did because nobody else was doing anything, he didn't finish the job. Now, why he didn't finish, okay, it could be some legal thing. Maybe he felt that if he used the weapon on the guy that he would be prosecuted under Australian law. I honestly, I don't know. I can't tell you about that. But what I can say is that even though he wrested one of the guns away, the perpetrator was able to continue. And this is it ties, believe it or not, ties to things like the drug boat. When you're in situations like this, you eliminate. That's it. You end. There is no other way. You destroy the enemy or the person affecting everybody. You destroy them, or you seriously incapacitate them so that they cannot go and do what this man did. Go and grab another weapon and start shooting again. Now, all of that being said, the question, there are several in all of this. First of all, how could these individuals walk in the open with these long guns? Okay. These are not hidden. These are not concealable weapons very much. Okay. These are not concealable weapons. So obviously somebody saw them, but didn't think anything of it in terms of going or walking around in this particular area. And it looks like it's a park. Park, open space, public gathering area, whatever you want to call it, part of the Bondi Beach area. Now, I've also seen cell phone footage of people surrounding the area who have gotten pretty good, basically fairly close. We're fairly close to the person on the pedestrian bridge. And so, yeah, this is just something I can't even explain all of it, and there's going to be a lot of details on all of this. However, I will tell you this much, and this is totally for sure, okay? And that is that things like what you're going to see in the following couple photos are enough to explain a bit why we have our gun laws the way that we do. Reportedly, these are two Australian police officers who are attempting or addressing the shooter. And as you can see, their hands are up. They don't have any weapons with them. There's no movement whatsoever. And so one of the criticisms, by the way, which this is the next photo, there's another police officer who apparently was ducked behind a car. Now, why they are there, I don't know. And honestly, again, I can't really say whether or not the police in Australia actually carry weapons. But apparently these police officers, and I'm not being critical of them because I'm going to tell you this right now. Okay, I'm going to tell you this right now. Here in America, the Supreme Court of the United States has made it clear that the police do not, under any circumstances, and actually even fire department personnel, do not under any circumstances have a law requirement, mandate. They must, I don't care what kind of way that you say it, to go. They have no responsibility whatsoever to go and put their lives in harm's way to save yours. If the situation is that bad, our cops, that's just like the ones that didn't run in all of the mass shootings that we've been having, like Uvalde, for an example. Those cops that are down there, they're totally absolved of any necessarily any wrongdoing. Yes, societally, do we look at them as cowards? Absolutely. Do we think that they didn't do their job? Absolutely. But in terms of the letter of the law, the only person who has the responsibility for protecting yourself is you. There is nothing else. The police are 100% completely reactionary. Now, there are some specially trained units in our police forces here in the United States that are specially trained, have the special equipment to be able to handle these kinds of situations. But the reality of it is that your standard everyday beat cop, they have no, and even the SWAT team folks, special weapons and tactics, for those that don't know, they do not have the legal requirement to put their life in harm's way for you. So there is only one choice, and that is you. You are the only one responsible for defending yourself. You are the only one responsible for protecting yourself. And see, this is where the gun nuts, and by gun nuts, I'm talking about the ones trying to take away the weapons. This is where the gun nuts don't seem to get it. This is the reason, this is one of two main reasons why the Second Amendment exists in our Constitution. Number one is to prevent a tyrannical government from riding roughshod over you. And number two is protecting yourself from things like this kind of a situation. Now, there's some eyewitness accounts, by the way. There are some eyewitness accounts. One man in particular who was basically saying, yeah, I didn't see the police for like 15 minutes. And this thing went on for, 10, 20 minutes, something like that. This went on for a very long time. There was even some initial reports that were saying the police weren't showing up or didn't show up until like 45 minutes later. Now, I don't know. I don't think that's true because, as you see, we have people in police uniforms apparently in the area, potentially while this is occurring. But, folks, you cannot sit here. You cannot sit here and tell me that this is a complete reason as to why guns need to go away. No. This is a reason to demonstrate why guns need to stay and get into the hands of people who not only know how to use them, but are also willing to do so as well, at the risk of their own lives, because they're protecting themselves. Now, of course, the first thing out of the Australian Prime Minister's mouth, which is the same thing that is the first thing out of all of the leftist lunatics up here in America's mouths, which is essentially that, oh, this just proves we need stricter gun laws. Really? Why? What gun law? Just explain to me, seriously, if you're a leftist, just explain to me what gun law would prevent a man who had these weapons legally, by the way, had these weapons for 6 years or we'll just say several years prior to this incident. Where and what gun law is going to stop this man from doing, or in this case, him and his son, from doing any of this? What would stop them from doing this? Seriously. And in fact, Nick Freitas has a very poignant point made. He posted this on Facebook. Let's go ahead and take a quick listen.
Well, almost immediately following the terror attack in Bondi, Australian politicians have promised to focus more on restricting access to firearms, which is something they've put a lot of time and effort into doing, and yet this still happened. Maybe what's needed here is not restricting access to firearms for Australians that don't want to hurt anybody. Maybe what they need to be doing is restricting access to their country to people that want to kill Australians. Maybe that would help. Well, almost immediately following the terror.
So, yeah. See, and this is where I'm getting to. This is where I'm getting to with this entire thing. This whole multiculturalism idea that the left and the lunatics keep trying to push on all of us. This isn't something that is I'm not saying this in terms of like I don't want to, I mean, the first thing that anybody would say to you, if I said that in front of a leftist, they're going to be like, oh, well, you're just a white supremacist. You're Islamophobic. You're blackophobic. You're all, no, I'm not. And let me explain why. A phobia, for you idiots that are out there, for someone to have a phobia by definition is an exaggerated and usually inexplicable, let me rephrase that. Let me say that again. The definition of phobia is an exaggerated, usually inexplicable, and illogical fear of a particular object, class of objects, or situation. See, I don't have a phobia. I don't have a phobia. I don't have an Islamophobia. I don't have a homophobia. I don't have a transphobia. I don't have a phobia against, any particular race. What I do have is what's called a healthy respect and understanding that not everybody is going to want the same things that I do. Not everybody is going to be of the same mindset that I have, which is you go your way, I go mine, and as long as the two of us don't interfere with one another, who gives a crap? See, this is where the left tries to scare people like me into stuff. Oh, you're racist. No, I'm not. I'm what's known as a realist because I live in facts and logic. See, somebody would say that if I say this, and this is true, when you have a certain segment of the population, okay, when you have a certain segment of the population that commits 50% of the violent crimes in America, 50% of the violent crimes in America are perpetrated by a certain segment of the population. Happens to be black. That is statistics. That is statistical analysis. That is hardline data. Not only that, but when you talk about crime statistics, a white person being beaten up by a black person or being assaulted or battered by a black person is a much higher probability and rate than the opposite being true. You could also say the same thing about an Asian person and a black person, or a Indian person and a black person. See, unfortunately, the black community does have statistics against them. When you sit here and talk about the reality of the statistics, these are not things that I'm making up. You can check this out anytime you want. The black community far, far exceeds even if you take the race out of it and you say white on white crime, white on white violent crime is almost non-existent in comparison to black on black crime. And these are facts. These are facts. And for me, as an individual with a healthy respect for death, see, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to go and do something stupid like eat a Tide Pod. I'm not going to go and do something stupid like hold a chainsaw over my head, running it as fast as I can, and then dropping it and hoping that I don't get hurt. See, that stuff is stupid. And walking into certain neighborhoods, across cities, across all of our entire country, when you don't have to, that's sometimes a level of stupid, depending upon what the situation is. But no, none of that happens to be homophobic or phobic or, I don't know, Islamophobic or whatever, racist, none of that. That's just dealing with facts. That's just dealing with reality. See, I try and avoid risk. That's the point. In order to be able to live a long life, you sort of need to avoid risk. Because the chances of you getting hurt, maimed, injured, whatever, increase the more risks you take. Now, we need to come back to the table and realize that there is a segment of this population today that was imported by the previous administration, unvetted and imported. And this is exactly where we're at today. There is a video out, and I don't have it, but there's a video out, I've seen it, of a Islamic, I don't know, a practitioner, let's just call him that. And he literally says that, hey, we're here in your country, but we're not here to assimilate. We're not here to become part of your culture. We're here to bring Islam to you and take over your culture. And this video is fairly viral. You can probably find it. But I'm sitting here and I'm telling you, there are people in this world who literally do not want anything to do with us. They don't want to be a part of Western culture. They don't want to assimilate into our society. They think that we are literally infidels. Now, there is nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong in realizing that, hey, somebody who doesn't necessarily share my values and principles, I'm not going to want to live next to them because they're going to be playing by a different set of rules than I do. I'm not going to be interested in living next to a culture that does not embrace the fact that, again, I'm a free individual. They're free individuals. What I do is my business. What they do is their business. As long as I don't interfere with them and they don't interfere with me, we can live and coexist happily. But apparently, that's part of the problem, is that we are trying to live and coexist with these people, but they don't want to coexist. They want to destroy us. They want to take us over. They want us to convert to their religion. They want us to cover up our women. They want us to do all kinds of things that are not something that we want to do. To them, taking and doing these violent acts to get into their heaven with 72 virgins, rivers of honey, streets of gold, whatever it is. Okay? Whatever it is, that's what they want. That's what they want. They want to destroy us. And if they happen to die in the process of doing it, that's their reward. And so, yes, I am going to sit here and call that a form of mental illness. Because my belief system does not believe that killing somebody is going to bring you rivers of honey, 72 virgins, and whatever else they're promised. Martyrdom. See, my belief system is that killing is wrong. Murder is wrong. So, sitting here and trying to play like the leftist wants you to sit here and believe is that these people, oh, no, we can understand them. We can work with them. They can fit within our... No, bullshit. Get them out. They don't belong here. This is our country. We created it. We had a level of people, a group, an individual of people, a populace, who decided that, hey, we're all going to live under a common set of rules, a common set of laws. These common sets of rules are based out of principles and values that come from Judeo-Christian religion. And that's how America was formed. Now, on Saturday, I talked extensively about how the U.S. Constitution was never designed to apply to everyone, regardless of whether they were here in our border or not. The Constitution is, according to John Adams, for a moral and religious people. It is inadequate to be the ruling document for any other. And yes, I paraphrased him a little bit. But he was correct. See, the principles there are moral in terms of the moralism that the Judeo-Christian religions bring, and the religious part also being a part of the Judeo-Christian values, principles and values. That's what the Constitution was developed for. That's what the Constitution was written for. And to sit here and say that the U.S. Constitution can apply to everybody, no. The laws in this country, yes, they apply to everybody, but the rights and privileges that are given by the U.S. Constitution, if you do not adhere to the U.S. Constitution, if you do not provide allegiance to the U.S. Constitution, you should not be awarded any of the benefits of the U.S. Constitution. And this is part of the problem with our culture today. Now, I'm open to allowing anybody who wishes to come live free, in harmony with others, not messing with anybody else, doing their own thing. I am fully on board. Come to this country. Live in peace. But if you can't do that, then stay the hell away. Stay out of here. Now, there was another massive shooting that killed 2, wounded 8. We do not know specifically. This is at Brown University, which, by the way, is a gun-free zone. Hello? Yeah, let's just make soft targets out of all of this stuff. It's a gun-free zone in Rhode Island, one of the more stricter states with gun laws. But hey, that didn't stop them. That didn't stop this person. And we don't have the specifics. However, there is a suggestion because of the one of the individuals that was killed was essentially a teacher, teaching professor of economics, and she happens to be Jewish. And they're suggesting, potentially, that this shooter, who, by the way, is still at large at this point, that this shooter may have targeted her with regarding all of this. Because her research and what she is doing is focusing on the economics of immigration, specifically the economic metric analyses of outcomes and impacts of immigrants in the United States and Israel. She has testified before Congress and participated in the Knesset committee deliberations. She is currently exploring the intersection of economics and Jewish studies. The shooting occurred in her classroom. So there's some question as to whether or not she may have been the target of this. Now, she wasn't present during the shooting, so if I made you think that she was a victim, no, I apologize for misleading you. But apparently, her classroom is the classroom where the individual went in to shoot these people. So, yeah. There also is some suggestion that one of the targets may have been may have possibly been like a member or the head of some sort of a Republican club. But again, without knowing the shooter, without having the shooter in custody, we don't have any particular motive. And I said wounded 8, it's 9, killed 2 students. So, there was a person of interest that police had in custody at one point, but then they released him because it was determined that it was a different direction that they needed to go in with this guy. So, yeah. And this is how, things are done in terms of investigations. You get people of interest and then you clear them and then you move on. Well, those two, obviously, because they resulted in deaths, were obviously the talk of all of the news crews, not only yesterday, but today. However, there were a couple of other attacks that occurred that were either thwarted or, thankfully, nobody was hurt. One, because Sunday evening marked the beginning of Hanukkah, there was a Redlands, California drive-by shooting that targeted a Hanukkah display. And this is apparently an anti-Semitic attack. I mean, this is obvious. So, Roger Cohen, who was a political science professor at Mira Costa College and university lecturer, shared on his X post on Saturday, indicating that his home in Redlands, California, had been attacked by a drive-by shooting on Friday evening. And here, let's go ahead and I'll show you the video of it. So, now apparently, this thing's only 17 seconds long. Let me see if I can get my background music out of the way and you can listen. So apparently toward the end there, you can hear somebody saying, F the Jews. He's got this on these video camera, and that was close to 20 shots being fired. Folks, and it's a doorbell, kind of Ring camera type footage, something like that. Oh, and by the way, this is the display. Here's the display that he has out there that was shot at. Yeah. So any other additional information, by the way, on this incident is scant. But yeah, that's what happened. It was a Jewish family's home. Yeah, you heard F the Jews is what you heard. F the Jews. So, yeah. Anyway. Also, we had an arrest made by the FBI. The FBI apparently arrested 4 alleged members of a radical pro-Palestinian group that was plotting New Year's Eve bombings. The individuals self-identified as members of the, get this, Turtle Island Liberation Front. So federal authorities say that they disrupted a credible terrorist threat over the weekend, arresting 4 members of a radical pro-Palestinian extremist group accused of planning coordinated New Year's Eve bombings in L.A., meaning Los Angeles. The FBI told Fox News Digital that members self-identified as part of a radical offshoot of the Turtle Island Liberation Front, which is an extremist group motivated by pro-Palestinian anti-law enforcement and anti-government ideology. According to the FBI, they were allegedly planning coordinated bombing attacks on New Year's Eve using IEDs, targeting 5 separate locations across L.A. The agency said the 4 were arrested in Lucerne Valley, where they believed to be preparing to test explosive devices ahead of the planned attacks. They each have been charged with conspiracy and possession of a destructive device. Folks, we can't have these people. We really can't. I mean, I'm sorry. You want to talk about the melting pot? The melting pot of America was designed and intended to bring people who had common foundational values together. And those common foundational values, believe it or not, come from the Judeo-Christian religious morals, standards, principles, values, beliefs, whatever. Because you'll notice that even though America was founded by a wide range of religious sects, meaning sects, you cannot sit here and tell me that all of these people, even the quote-unquote deists who didn't believe in the revealed God of the Bible, but believed in a God and creator, this is entirely ridiculous to sit here and think that we as Americans need to be tolerant of this kind of stuff. We don't. We don't need to be tolerant of this. We don't need to sit here and accept this multiculturalism that is attempting to take over our country. We need to stand up to this. We need to say, look, if you do not want to come here and be free, live your life the way you see fit without interfering with other people's lives, then you need to stay the hell away. And this is what Donald Trump is attempting to do. With all the kinds of migration and immigration that has happened over the course of the last decade. Even more so, because Obama did the exact same thing. He brought in a bunch, if not all, of the Somalis that are basically, their culture is to leech off the government. That's expected. That's not our culture. That is not our way. This multiculturalism is ridiculous. It's not phobic. It's not racist. It's not bigoted. It's mere fact. So I'm done with this idea. Now look, we can have individual arguments, discussions, debates about how to get to a certain place. But this idea that we should just welcome everybody with open arms, regardless of what their background is absolutely utter nonsense and ridiculous. And somebody would tell me, oh, that's not very Christian of you. Yeah, well, even Jesus told his apostles to grab swords and defend themselves at one point in the Bible. You don't have to be passive. There is also the idea of turning the other cheek, allowing that one. But what happens when you no longer have cheeks to hit? Well, it's time for us to get off our asses and realize that there are people out there who do not like us, that don't want to be a part of us. And we sit here with our open door policy of the Biden administration and somewhat of the Obama administration before him, and we let these assholes in here. It's now time to clean house, which is what Donald Trump is doing. And if you're an effing leftist who sits there and talks about, oh, free Palestine, go to Palestine and free it. Go to Gaza. I'm tired of this crap. Head on over to Gaza. Go fight with the Palestinians. I guarantee you, especially those groups like Queer for Palestine or Lesbians for Palestine or whatever. You guys are complete, utter, stupid morons. The minute you step foot in that country, you're going to get killed immediately because they do not believe the same way that we do. This is ridiculous. We cannot live in multiculturalism. It does not work. There is just way too much. Diversity is not our strength. There's just way too much disparative differences between the many cultures of the world. We're not going to come to a satisfactory conclusion to bring all of us together. No. You need to go. You need to go. And I'm tired of sitting here and watching my country get torn down by all of these people. And I'm finished with that. But go. Get out. You don't need to be here. I don't want you here. You need to go. That's not racist. That's not bigoted. That's not xenophobic. Any other phobic? No, that's just reality. You don't want the same things I do. You don't come from the same foundational values that I do. We will not be able to live together unless you are able to understand that I live differently from you and you can basically ignore it. You can't. Most of them can't, and that's why we have the problems that we have. I'm done. It's time for you to go. Go back to your countries. Go back to where you came from. Quit trying to change here to be like there because you left there thinking that there wasn't all that great. And so you came here. And now you're wanting here to change. No. Go away. Go away. Go back to your home country. Go back to where you came from until you decide that you can live within the same principles and values, the basic principles and foundational values that this country has been built upon, namely the rule of law, namely, live and let live, and namely, let us practice our religion just like you practice yours. That's all I have for tonight. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It's free to do so. And once you are signed up and signed in, search out the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, before you take off, don't forget to hit those thumbs up, thumbs downs, and of course the thumb sideways across all of my platforms, if you're 3 Chevy, of course. Across all my platforms, whether it's YouTube, X, Facebook, and of course the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Good night, everybody, and pray for those lives lost. Pray for those lives lost. Good night, everybody.